Coming to you from Crash Studios in Music City, USA, Nashville. This is the Rich Redmond Show. On this episode, actor, writer, and producer, Rich Wilkes. And now, Rich Redmond.
What's up, rock and rollers? Yep, it's that time. Another episode of the Rich Redmond Show. Yep, this is the show where we talk about all things music, motivation, and success. And as always, Jim McCarthy, voiceovers.com, coming to us from Nashville, Tennessee, Music City, USA. Jim, what's been happening, man? Catch me up really quick.
It is beautiful here today, 70s.
Yeah?
Spring is in the air.
Ooh, nice. I love that in Nashville. It's allergy season because Nashville is a bowl. There's like just pollen. It covers the cars. It's a nightmare.
We get it. You're in a better place. I get it. Okay.
Well, no, it's just because it's sunny and 70 and we really don't need weather people.
Right.
You know, but hey, I'll be heading back. I've got some fun stuff coming up in May, so I'm going to have to get back to Music City, USA.
Yeah, you guys have a gig.
We do. We're playing the Bonnaroo Farm, but who knows? Maybe by the time this episode comes out, that'll be old news. You know, because we usually have about 20 of these things in the queue. But hey, today's guest is so solid, so important, such a backbone of the Hollywood industry, and we have tons of mutual friends. So I want to get right to it. Today's guest. Screenwriter, director, actor, musician, our new friend, Rich Wilkes. What's up, man?
Hey, Rich. Hey, Jim. How you guys doing?
Yeah, man.
This was great.
You get the applause. You get the applause. We still might have to check the Zoom settings because whenever Jim hits these great samples we have, sometimes like this compression just grabs it and just squashes it. So this is the problem with doing a podcast from two cities. At the same time, we have the same production value as The Tonight Show, The Today Show, Good Morning America, The View. I mean, we got them. I mean, we're right on the same level playing field.
Almost.
Yeah, you got the backdrop and everything.
I know. This thing is just like I'm in California, but I have the Flatiron building behind me. This thing really was worth its weight in gold during COVID, this backdrop. Thank you to my girlfriend, Cara Lusardi. And of course, if you guys are consuming this with your eyes, Jim always has his Marvel stuff in the background. So Rich, maybe we can get into that today. You could weigh in on some of these Marvel movies.
Sure.
Okay, why don't we do that right away? Jim, what's your question? Because this gentleman's like a massively successful screenwriter. So what is it that you love so much about these Marvel movies?
What do I love so much about them is the complexity of the plot lines. It's like it's the dream theater of movies, right? The plot, like even today, I looked at something. You know, have you guys seen Endgame?
Of course,
parts of it, yeah.
You know how Cap takes all the stones back?
Sure.
At the end. How in the world? You know, this just came to light today. I saw the movie 2 years ago, and I'm thinking to myself, how did that work? There's so many plot holes in there that they would have to work through.
Plot holes happen. I mean, right, Rich? And you just kind of work.
They do.
You know.
Yeah, absolutely. With Avengers, you have to think about all of the movies that they have to dovetail together. I know the Russo brothers and how hard they work to try to, you have to give everybody their time on screen, and you have 35 different characters, and you have to pay attention to all of them, which is extraordinarily difficult. It's an ensemble cast bigger than any in cinematic history that I can think of.
Wow.
And there's massive. A lot riding on it. They're 250 million a pop, and it's roller coaster rides, it's merchandise, it's everything is riding on it, and they managed to pull it off. But
$250,000 each movie to make?
I believe, yeah. I think the Avengers were a quarter billion.
Gosh.
Yeah. You can't cheap out on
$250 million, yeah.
$250 million.
Yeah. Isn't that crazy? And it ended up making 1.8, 1.9? Or was it in the twos?
I don't remember, but they're not losing money on it.
That's for sure. That's for sure. So, Rich,
it's crazy.
I actually wrote a Marvel movie that didn't wind up getting made. I was early on in what do you call it? The first chapter was ending, and they were trying to pick the 4 characters that were going to join. They wound up with Doctor Strange and Ant-Man and what
was it phase. I think that was phase 2 to phase 3.
Correct. So
Yeah.
I had been brought in to do a Iron Fist movie, because they did about 8 or 10 scripts with different characters and wanted to figure out which one would dovetail in better with what they had. So I unsuccessfully adapted Iron Fist, which they then turned into a really good TV show for Netflix.
Wow.
Oh, okay.
So you step up to the bat all the time, and you always swing, and you always put your best foot forward, but sometimes things don't land, but you're just right back to the drawing board. I mean, look at this history with you as a writer. 1994, you got Airheads, The Stoned Age, the Jerky Boys movie. Then you get into Glory Days. You created the franchise Triple X. And you have a documentary about your band that I totally want to get into. I just watched it on Amazon Prime. It's free on Amazon Prime, which is fantastic. Punk Like Me, 2006. And The Dirt, most recently for Netflix, the story of Motley Crue. So that's a great history there, man. How does this all start for you?
Well, it actually started with mostly with music. I was doing I was working on zines in the late 80s, little self-published rags, and using that to get in touch with record companies to see if I could get not just access to the artists, but the free CDs that everybody loves when they're doing that stuff.
It's called radio.
It was my love of music that gave me the idea for Airheads, which is basically a rock and roll version of Dog Day Afternoon.
I mean, when you think about it, and was that I wouldn't say that launched a lot of careers, but Adam Sandler, I mean, this was right around the time of like the Waterboy Billy Madison, so he was starting to catch fire, right?
No, this is well before. This is when he was still a small player on SNL.
Early 90s.
Yeah. So it was it was a little bit difficult to get him on, but once he came on, he brought Farley and we had a lot of great cast members on that. But it was Brendan Fraser and all these guys like Buscemi. It was Buscemi's, I think, first sort of studio movie after playing Mr. Pink in Reservoir Dogs.
Wow,
that's right.
So it was definitely early on. It was right after that he finally got to star in Billy Madison.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Well, I remember
it was Michael McKean.
Yeah. So we had the Spinal Tap guy. We had 2 of the 4 Ghostbusters. It was stellar.
Michael Richards, Joe Montana. You got
I forgot. Michael Richards. Yeah, no, it was.
Joe Montana was the afternoon rock jock.
Yep, correct.
Yep. I think you nailed the radio aspect of it. I think radio was pretty accurate at that point in time.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I went to hang out at K-Rock, and so did Joe Montana to go hang out with a Shadow DJ for a while. So yeah, that was fun. It was not just K-Rock. It was KLOS. I was in studio when like Joe Satriani came in for an interview and got to see how all that worked. And that's just the bonus stuff that you get to do, in the name of research. Access to do all these, I was backstage at the K-Rock weenie roast or whatever, not for any real reason, but because I wanted to, and I asked for it and told them it was important for the movie.
Of course it is, but it is important because you see how these jocks really are. Yeah. That was my life for 18 years.
Oh my God.
Yeah, Jim's definitely got a face for radio. I mean, he's really had a successful career. Can you give me a womp, womp, womp?
Hold on.
He's got to find the buttons. But
I do.
Rich, we also have a friend that we want to thank publicly, Steve Cooper, stevecooper.net, coopertalk.net. Great guy, and he's a Jersey guy. Was that the connection because you're originally from Jersey?
No, we have a mutual friend in San Diego, Norman Carmichael, who hooked us up back when Steve was working on screenplays. And so he sent me one of the screenplays to give him some feedback on it.
Right.
It was stand up, and so it was a really funny script about the Amish Mafia.
I love Steve. I couch surfed for a while on his place, and we became like fast friends. And so you're from New Jersey, but then you move to Oceanside, California, and you start garnering interest not only in music but in film. And then you go to college at USC Santa Cruz?
Santa Cruz.
Yeah. Lost Boys. I remember running into Kiefer Sutherland, like he has a favorite eatery in Nashville that he goes to all the time. It happens to be my favorite eatery. Haven't been in a year. We know why. I can't wait to sit at the bar and just sip a nice cold martini. But anyways, I was rapping with him and he's like, oh, dude, Santa Cruz. Yeah. Creepy town, right? I mean, it was like, he's like, you could feel there's history there. There's unexplained things. Did you have the same experience?
I was actually there at the time of the filming of Lost Boys, and I'm wow. in it. I was in it as an extra.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So it has that vibe because of Edmund Kemper, who, serial killer from the Mindhunter show.
Wow.
And he was Santa Cruz based and, killed co-eds on campus and buried their severed heads in his backyard and dug them up every time he felt like chatting with them. So it was for a brief time, I think they say it in the movie, it was the murder capital of the United States or the world because it's a small population and this dude, killed quite a few people.
Killing co-eds on campus.
Yeah.
Alliterative.
And his mom and, he didn't have too many friends, I guess.
So you're studying there and you're into music and you're into film. And then did you get your master's at the American Film Institute or what was that?
I went I graduated with a theater degree because I didn't really have film at Santa Cruz yet. And then I went to American Film Institute for screenwriting. But I quit. It's a 2-year master program, but I wrote a script the first year that got optioned by Touchstone Pictures. Nice. And so my choice was I'm going to pay $10,000 to finish my master's, or I'm going to get paid $10,000 by Touchstone to be a screenwriter. And so I decided to be a screenwriter and not give my money to the school because nobody's ever asked for my degree in my years in the business. So that's where it was ridiculously lucky and easy for me to get in at a very young age. I don't know. I think I was 25 or something.
Great.
Yeah. And I started selling screenplays. So yeah, it was really, really fortunate and quick. And I think most of it was because of my fandom for punk rock. And so I would come in with a different sort of attitude. I'm not a punk rocker, but I understand that world somewhat. And if you have a different perspective on things, a slightly askew, then people respond to it, know. And I was fortunate enough to squeeze into that slot.
The Rich Redmond Show. We'll be right back.
Those who are self-employed, especially musicians, think homeownership is unattainable. For Bruce Klein, it took 7 years to purchase his first home as a self-employed working musician. But once he did, man, was it satisfying. So he decided he wanted to help other musicians and creatives gain that same satisfaction. Bruce earned his lending license and is now helping people avoid the mistakes he made on his 7-year journey. If you're a self-employed musician, he can help. Go to musiciansmortgage.com, powered by Movement Mortgage.
Bruce Klein, NMLS, number 1465948. Movement Mortgage supports equal housing opportunity. NMLS, number 39179. NMLS, consumeraccess.org.
Henry Ford once said that if you need a machine and don't buy it, then you will ultimately find that you have paid for it and don't have it. Nothing could be truer about energy-efficient LED lighting in your business. At Big Dot Lighting, we can show you how a portion of your savings from a commercial LED lighting upgrade will be paid for in hardly any time at all. Until then, you're paying for them anyway. Book a no-cost lighting energy assessment with Big Dot Lighting. At least 30% of your utility bill is waiting to be saved. Go to bigdotlighting.com.
Are you a drummer looking to expand your drumming vocabulary or take your career to the next level? You can connect with me for one-on-one virtual lessons and consultations that are now 30% off. I cover topics like styles, reading music, the Nashville number system, charting, music business 101, and career guidance. Simply send me an email at booking@richredmond.com to schedule. And for more information on all of my products and services, visit richredmond.com.
This is the Rich Redmond Show.
And so another tie that binds us all is that you are a drummer. Jim plays drums, you play drums. And so who are your favorite drummers coming up?
It's obviously Keith Moon, Mitch Mitchell, Ian Pate. I like the guys that are sort of wild and all over the place and play fills underneath the verse. The more modern guys I like are from the punk world, like Josh Freese and Brooks Wackerman. In the Chili Peppers, I always liked Cliff Martinez when he was with them. I was one of those guys, and you know these guys. I never did, but the guys who stand in the front row and just watch the drummer the whole show, right? And just make you feel uncomfortable with this eye contact because they're just so enthralled by what you're doing. And I never experienced that because nobody paid attention to what I was doing. I don't know about you, Jim, but I'm sure we don't get the same response that Rich does.
Well, Jim was really into Neil Peart and loved the. I mean, he's that guy. I mean, that was his guy. Yeah,
that's awesome.
Not anymore so much though.
But then he got into Carter Beauford. I got to pronounce that correctly. But, I was doing some more research today. When you think of Keith Moon and you think of John Henry Bonham, they both died of alcohol-related problems at the same age, 32 years old. And when you think about it, the body of work that they left behind at merely 32 years old, I mean, you think of Bonham, it's just like everybody knows, and he had the swing and the soul, and he was really influenced by like rhythm and blues, old blues music. And you listen to Keith Moon, who was he was a thespian, he was an actor, and he picked up the sticks. He had this natural tendency towards it. Just a wild man. If you take either of those guys out of their respective bands, it would not sound anything like those bands. They were the linchpin that held it all together.
I agree, and Keith Moon wouldn't fit in with the Rolling Stones.
Right.
John Bonham with the Beach Boys, no go. They both have such, and guys like Mitch Mitchell and Ian Pace, such a distinctive voice. They, especially Moon and Mitch Mitchell and Bonham, they play their instrument like it's a lead instrument. It's like, fuck you, Jimmy Page. I'm going to play it just as wild and crazy as you. And they really punched through in a band where every musician was fighting with the lead singer for attention. And I love that dynamic.
There's always that dynamic, right? And I think you recognize that. And when you think about like Stewart and Sting and Kenny Aronoff and Mellencamp, and I don't know if Bono gets into it with Larry Mullen Jr., but there's always that push and pull where you need to have a big outgoing personality as your drummer, but then you have a frontman who needs to be massively charismatic. And sometimes there's that thing, but there's that thing that just creates this magic energy. And then as you're following your rock and roll dreams, you're doing all this screenwriting, you're playing the game in Hollywood, but you still haven't lost your dreams of rock and roll stardom, which is perfectly captured in the documentary Punk Like Me. Like I said, everybody check that out, 2006. It's really inventive, it's really creative, and it's free on Amazon Prime. Tell us about that, because that's when you said, I'm done with the drums, I'm going to the front of the stage. How did that happen?
Yeah, I always fancied myself a drummer because those were my heroes. And the stereotype about drummers is that they're the wild and crazy guys and the most fun in the band, right? Exactly. But then what I realized is, like, I had this old $150 Yamaha kit that I would play in my band. And then my friend came over, who's a real drummer, and he made it sound so good. When I played, it sounded like, sneakers in a dryer. I didn't know how to tune it. I didn't know anything. But when he played it, it sounded amazing. Right. And I had always told my band, well, the kit is cheap. That's why it sounds like garbage. Mm-hmm. And then once he came along and started playing with me, there's this old story of, I think it was Da Vinci or Michelangelo, the guy who was teaching him, the master who was teaching Da Vinci. At a certain point, Da Vinci surpassed him as a painter. And the master just said, you know what? I quit. I'm never going to pick up a brush again because this guy is so much better than I am. What's the freaking point? And that's the point. I played drums for 18 years and never could get above a certain level. And so at a certain point, I said, this isn't meant to be. I'm not going to be Keith Moon. So I gave that up and then became lead singer of this band that we took on the Warped Tour.
Carne Asada, is that the one?
Carne Asada, punk rock mariachi band. And by necessity, I became the singer because I couldn't find a singer. It turns out that I have more the personality of a lead singer, which is disappointing. To be that kind of needy prima donna who needs to be the center of attention, which is not what I wanted to be. I wanted to be the wild man and the behind the kit.
Right.
But just to explain the movie, I had this opportunity after writing XXX to meet the guy who runs the Warped Tour. And I told him about how I was a music journalist back in the day, which is a bit of an exaggeration. I got like 5 articles published in newspapers. But I told him I wanted to write about the Warped Tour for Rolling Stone magazine.
Right.
And I wanted to write not just as a passenger. I wanted to put my band on the road and do it from that perspective. And he said, yes, that sounds great. Well, I didn't know anybody at Rolling Stone. That was a complete fabrication. So I called up Rolling Stone, and I think I actually got to talk to Kurt Loder. I think he was working there at the time. And I pitched him the idea, and he said, no, thank you. And so now I was caught in this lie where I was supposed to write an article for Rolling Stone, and they didn't want me. So by the time the tour came around a couple of months later, I figured, Kevin Lyman had forgotten all about that. He's the guy who runs the Warped Tour. And in fact, he did. I was on the tour for the summer of '04, touring the Midwest, which is a whole thing I want to ask you about because it's impossible life on the road.
You got 5 guys in a 15-passenger van, right? Taking shifts.
Yeah, no, we did the deluxe
Taking
version
what?
In a bus like you guys.
Nice.
But it's impossible. It's an impossible lifestyle for most people. I think it takes a certain, I don't know, even I read David Lee Roth's book, and he said that it guaranteed 2 weeks in, that's when road burn sets in and you're just on autopilot. And it felt like, some of the guys I was on tour with, they looked at it like a prison sentence. It's like, I'm going to get ready. I know I'm committed for 8 weeks. Fuck it. I'll do my time and then I'll get out of here. But how do you do it for extended periods?
Yeah, it just literally becomes a lifestyle where, my suitcase has been packed and really hasn't been unpacked. It just gets repacked, since 1997. So whatever that is, we're talking like 24 years of nonstop touring, and it just becomes a lifestyle. And a lot of the acts that I toured with, in Nashville, the way we do things, since it's so centrally located in the country, is we've always had the model of being essentially weekend warriors. So we jump on the bus at Wednesday night, we go and we have nice tight routing. So we're in Nashville, you're in North Carolina, you're in South Carolina, you're in Alabama, you're home by Sunday, and then you have 72 hours in town to kiss your wife or the cactus or the cat, do your laundry, and then, I would try to, do recording sessions and produce acts and write songs, make the best use possible of those 72 hours, and then the bus is calling you again. So, yeah, it's hard on family members, it's hard on you, it's hard on friendships, it's hard on romantic relationships. It's not for the
Van Halen went out for months at a time, though, right?
I think most rock bands go out for years at a time.
Right.
It's like the cycle of an American rock band is you record and then you go on the road for 1 year and you do not come back. And that's a whole different thing. And now that I'm at this point in my life, wow, I don't know if I want to be gone that much,
And
you're at least you're gonna put me in a Prevost at least.
Well, that's what you guys had.
A private jet.
You got the bus, right?
Yeah, we got the bus. We slept on the bus. I mean, it was a blast. It was a bachelor party for 2 weeks, except with my wife and infant daughter and my in-laws.
Well, your wife was helping you maintain your green mohawk, so that was good.
Yes. Yeah. So that's the complication of the movie, that I get my teenage dream, but with all the complications of being a married guy and having the in-laws came along to bring the baby, so my wife didn't miss the baby, and sort of raining on the parade of sex, drugs, and rock and roll that I had envisioned when I was 16.
But you made it happen.
Yeah, no, that's still one of the greatest memories, and it's one of the takeaways I have, for, it's similar to what you talk about with your motivational speaking stuff.
Yeah.
Which is, I mean, you gotta go for it. You gotta have confidence in yourself. You have to be persistent. You have to have the guts to ask the questions and the favors and what have you. And you reward people by, as you say, being a kind-hearted, nice person that they hopefully don't regret working with.
Right. Well, yeah, I mean, you said to yourself, hey, look, I could sing La Cucaracha and jump around the stage, and you surrounded yourself with a bunch of like-minded guys. And I think the motivational takeaway is that you went after it, you made it, there was a little off-white lie that was involved in getting your foot in the door. The door was cracked, you kick it open, and you figured out what to do after it got lined up. You're okay, we're booked on the Warped Tour, we're going to be in front of 600,000 crazed youths over the next several months. Now we just need to learn how to write 30 minutes of music, and you did.
Yeah, correct. The band that I had intended to take on the road broke up a month before the tour, so I was ready to give up my slot on the tour. And then 2 weeks before, I decided, you know what? Let's just see what happens. I sent out an email to everybody I knew. Who wants to go on tour in 2 weeks? We'll put together a band from scratch. Came up with this weird concept to, try to stick out, this punk rock mariachi thing. And, wrote the songs in the course of a couple of days, which are all ridiculous. And, we had, I think our fourth rehearsal was on the tour bus on the way to our first gig in Salt Lake City. Yeah. So our first live performance ever was on the tour, and it was complete punk rock chaos. A bunch of people that didn't know all of the songs, didn't know how to sing, didn't know how to pace themselves for being on a tour, didn't know you're not supposed to start drinking at 8 a.m. and make it an all-day party. But at the end of the day, what's nice is it scratched that itch. I'm not going to go to my grave wondering, man, I wish I could have been a rock star, because I know there's no way I could have handled it even if I did have the talent. There's no, it just scratched that itch of being able to, hey, I want to be a stand-up comedian. So I got to do it once. Great. I know what it felt like, at least for me to do it. I'm not going to conquer the world with it. But shit, isn't that great to have that bucket list kind of thing checked off?
Oh my God, absolutely. I tell everybody, you do not want to go to your grave being a member of the woulda, coulda, shoulda club. You want to get that thing off your chest. If you have a dream, you break it down into digestible goals, you write it down, because then it gets more real, and then you could create actionable steps. And you were talking about stand-up comedy, and our friend Steve Cooper did stand-up comedy for a long time. I was trolling your Instagram page, and it looked like you were doing some stand-up comedy before 1 year before COVID hit. So were you just going to like the Melrose Improv and stuff, and going to did you get some good slots, or were you like, no, I'll take the Monday open mic?
Yeah, no, it was all open mics. I took a class at the West Side Comedy Theater here in Santa Monica, and they have a great open mic. It's $1, 10 p.m. on a Wednesday. You
$1?
You put your name in a bucket, and if you're lucky enough to get pulled, then you get to perform that night for 3 minutes.
3 minutes.
Yeah, but they don't tell you what order you're going to be in. So you have to stay for the whole night and, do your thing.
Yeah, drinks are $15, and they're like, hang out, kid.
Yeah. So that's all I did for a year. And it's rare to even get up. So I probably only got up like 15, 16 times. But that, again, is another bucket list item. I always wanted to do it since college, and then figured, what am I waiting for? Let's just try it, to the horror of my children and my wife.
Did they come see you?
Not my kids. It's not the appropriate material, but it's still embarrassing enough for a teenager to have their dad. Like I took my daughter with her soccer team to Boise, Idaho to compete in this tournament.
Right.
And while we're at the hotel, I split off to go into an open mic in Boise. And she has to tell her friends, my father thinks he's a comedian and he's going to go out and tell the stupid jokes in Idaho. So, I don't know if they're thrilled with it, because it does, there's a certain desperation to being a 50-something guy and wanting to do stand-up, I guess. I don't know. I find it fun. But teenage girls find everything embarrassing at a certain point.
Right.
Not funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, I try out the material on them at the dinner table, and it doesn't boost the confidence.
No.
So
my 14-year-old reminds me all the time.
Yeah, dad is just not cool, but maybe they'll come around eventually. So you get up 15, 16 times. Did you feel like you honed the 3 minutes, or were you just putting yourself out on walking the tightrope and trying new material all the time?
Yeah, I every week I would throw out what I did the week before because I realized it didn't work or I didn't like it. Mm-hmm. So virtually every time I went up, it was with all new material because I was learning, and there's no, they say I heard it takes a year to find your voice, but then I heard more experienced people tell me it takes 7 years to find your voice and figure out who you are as a comedian. And that's pretty daunting because the first things you talk about, your marriage or whatever, wind up not being what you are good at. Dad jokes or family jokes are not my thing. So more pop culture stuff was more my thing. I tried talking about my vasectomy and going to the fertility clinic and having to go into the masturbatorium and fill the little cup. Yeah. And that doesn't necessarily go over with the 20 and 30 somethings that are
like vasectomy. I don't want that. What?
Yeah.
This is what I have to look forward to.
Yeah.
Rich, I'm getting one too, man. I'm looking forward to the peas on my testicles. It'll be great. Frozen peas.
Ask the guy. Well, my guy was kind of hip, and he held up a little mirror for me to look inside during the process.
Oh, God, you got an iron stomach, bro.
It looks like uncooked chicken in there.
Oh, my God, that is not cool, Rich. That is so not cool. So
I made it awkward for the nurse standing there. I said, "You're the only other woman to touch that area in like 18 years."
Did she laugh, or was she really highly?
She was kind of like, "Huh?" I'm like,
yeah, I get these jokes all the time. Jim will really go there. Jim, you might be able to do some screenwriting. Just put all your ridiculous, awkward thoughts on the page.
My ridiculous, awkward thoughts. Yeah, I actually used to do that I used to come up with scenarios in radio for our voice guy to say. Yeah, I'm not sure how good they were, but
So you're scratching all the itches. You're a documentarian, and I love the film. It's like so creatively shot, and you like take pictures of yourself and you cut them out. It almost looks like a serial killer. Types gets all the
the animation.
The animation is great. You do your own VO on it. Sure. I really enjoy it, and I highly recommend it. And then you're scratching your rock and roll itch. You're scratching your comedy itch. Tell us about creating a platform for Vin Diesel, a massive, it's at least 3 film franchise, right?
Yeah.
Triple X.
Yeah. The gravelly voiced spy master. I mean, I had pitched that, and it's an easy pitch. It was like James Bond, goes skiing and drinks martinis. What about the guy who goes snowboarding and drinks beer? I mean, you need those kind of bad guys as well. Yeah. So it was X Games meets James Bond. It was a very simple pitch. And right as I was writing it was when the trailers were coming out for Fast and the Furious. And immediately, the guy in my head for the spy guy, and this is weird, but at the time in the late 90s, it was a very strange era for bald-headed dudes with tattoos to be sexy. Instead of flowing long-haired rock stars, you had Fred
guys that look like Jim. Yeah,
exactly. And
no tattoos.
Well, you can paste them on like Vin did.
Oh, yeah.
To use that as the basis, take something that's pop culture in the moment, and I guess now it would be like a boy band like BTS or something, and they could be a Mission Impossible group. Don't take that idea; that's too good. So when we saw the trailer for Fast and the Furious, it was like, okay, this is the guy. This movie has the energy. So we got the same director, and they went right from Fast into Triple X. And the initial impetus for the movie was and everything is very selfish. And I'm telling you again about, wanting to be a rock star, wanting to be a comedian or whatever. I went on my honeymoon. I took my wife to Bora Bora, which is one of the most beautiful places on planet Earth. And I wanted desperately to go back. And so as I'm flying away from the place, I look down at the island and I go, I'm in the movie business. What kind of movie would come here to film? It would be an international spy movie. So why don't I come up with one of those, which led me to this X Games meets James Bond. And sure enough, the ending of the movie happens in Bora Bora. I scripted it that way so I could get a chance to go back.
Nice.
So it all comes from that. That's a bucket list thing. If I could shoot a movie in Bora Bora, wouldn't that be the greatest, rather than in a warehouse in Bulgaria?
Bulgaria, yeah.
Yeah.
Have somebody else foot the bill.
Yeah, exactly. And then the fun part was I didn't actually get to go to Bora Bora. I only got to go to the warehouse in the Czech Republic where we were shooting. But still, it's it's always that same selfish impetus for like, how do I get to that? That's the dream I want. How do I get there? Now let's figure out a way to make it happen.
Yeah, and Dario Argento, the Italian horror film master, his daughter was in it, Asia, right? And she was on a roll for a while, and I was like, oh, she's breaking into Hollywood. She's like, I haven't heard from her in a while. When I was reading the credits today on IMDb, what happened?
Yeah. Well, I don't know. There's some Me Too sort of stuff that she revealed a year or so ago. So I think that probably drove her away from Hollywood, my guess.
Yeah.
And then she was also, wasn't she the girlfriend of Anthony Bourdain? I believe she was.
Oh, wow. I did not know that.
Yeah, I believe so, at the time that he killed himself.
That's such a loss. So premature.
So she's got a crazy life. Darko is her dad, and Suspiria is probably, she was on the set when she's a kid. And
people are covered in blood, and what is happening here?
Exactly.
So, well, and... I loved Vin Diesel at the time. He had that movie Pitch Black with these, and then he was getting offered all these franchises. Like XXX became a fan, the Pitch Black stuff became a franchise, and then the Fast and the Furious became a massive franchise. And it's like, cha-ching. I mean, where does that guy live? In some sort of a castle somewhere?
Yeah, exactly. I went to his house once because I wrote. In success, you get to work with somebody again. So I actually wrote 3 or 4 movies for him. We were creating another franchise that didn't wind up going because at a certain point he left Fast and the Furious because of, I don't know why, but he left XXX as well. And the second one was with Ice Cube. So he needed another franchise to replace those. And so we worked on one that didn't wind up going. And I wound up writing 2 other XXX scripts that didn't get made for various, Hollywood reasons. But the time I did go to his house, it was, a guard at the gate and this, supermodel by the swimming pool. This is way before he was married and with kids. It was just like, he doesn't do press. He doesn't go on Fallon. He always respected the guys like De Niro in the old days who would not go on Johnny Carson and talk about the craft or whatever. He was just a very private guy who was living the best life. He created this Vin Diesel character out of nothing. He was, I don't know if you've seen videos of him when he was a breakdancer in the 80s, but he's a skinny little kid. And then he decides, you know what, I'm going to get buff. I'm going to create this character called Vin Diesel. He becomes a bouncer at the tunnel in New York City. He becomes this notorious sort of, that voice. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
And he built this career out of this desire to turn himself into a fucking badass, action guy.
Yeah.
What if and why not?
Yeah.
His name is Mark Sinclair.
That's his real name?
His real name, yeah.
Wow. Well, it's like make-believe. It's like we're so lucky to do what we do because it's like tapping into this childhood thing that we learn in the schoolyard of make-believe, and you've made it into like a career for yourself, like taking thoughts and ideas and going, yeah, James Bond, Martini, and like, let's flip that around. That's worked before, so let's just flip it for a modern era. I love it. It's brilliant. You got to be proud of yourself, man.
Oh yeah, thanks. It is rewarding to figure out how to do that stuff. And the thing with Motley Crue was that they were my favorite band in high school. Their first album came out when I was a junior, and so I was just all in. That was my senior year band when Shout at the Devil came out. so to be able to work with them 20 years later and go to hang out with Nikki and Tommy, because again, for research, I had to go and hang out with Nikki and Tommy.
Right.
Otherwise, I couldn't write the movie. So that's another version of making the dream come true. I read the book. I decided I have to do it. And it happened to be right on the summer when XXX came out. And so I was the flavor of the week and went into MTV and said, I really want to do this movie, and here's how. And they gave it to me. So there's a weird way of making these things come true. But at the same time, and maybe let me ask you, if you weren't a professional touring musician who's making a great living at it, would you still be playing drums?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Right? So success or failure, you're still going to be doing it for the love of it.
Yeah, we're lifers.
Yeah. And of all of the stuff that we're talking about that worked out for me, there's twice as many things that did not work out. You know, swinging for the fences and failing is part of the process, but I don't regret any of those things because it's part of the learning experience, and at least you gave it a shot.
Yeah, I mean, if you shoot for the moon and you hit a couple cumulonimbuses, you're still rocking. You know what I mean? Jim is he's looking at me rather funny, but I just came up with that in the moment. Jim, give me something. Give me like a cadet or something really positive over there. He's got the... Okay, wow, thank you. Okay, I'll take that. So now the movie you're talking about is The Dirt, that was on Netflix, and it was based on the Neil Strauss New York Times bestseller, The Dirt, which I remember reading. Jim, do you remember reading the book?
I watched the movie. I didn't read the book.
Yeah. And everyone is like, that's got to be cool, Rich, when everyone's like, everyone's recommending, oh, yeah, what are you watching on Netflix? What are you guys binging? I was like, dude, The Dirt. And I remember watching it, and it was so entertaining, and it went by so fast. I felt like it was pretty accurate because we were about the same age, when I was, honing the drums. Early 80s, we had a combination of like bands like Aha and Kajagoogoo, right? All programmed kind of like British bands, Thompson Twins, versus Ronnie James Dio and guys with like cucumbers in their pants and, a lot of Aquanet and stuff. I mean, it was like those two worlds converging. That first Motley Crue record, wasn't that the one with Red Hot on it?
That was the second one. The first one was Too Fast for Love, and it had Livewire on it.
And it had a crotch on the front cover, right?
Correct. Yeah. So Shout at the Devil had Red Hot with that great double bass pedal, setting the tone. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Red Hot.
Getting to do the movie and seeing these actors interpret the characters.
Yeah.
And, I got to go to the set in New Orleans, and there's a scene in the movie where they first audition Vince Neil and they play Livewire in the apartment. And they, the guys that were the actors had learned how to play guitar and bass and drums, and they played it live on the set. And Machine Gun Kelly is actually quite a talented drummer.
Right, that worked out.
I mean, he's a multi-instrumentalist. Who knew he was so versatile? I mean, he's a really good actor, and now he's sort of a emo punk pop guy.
Yeah.
Who saw that coming?
Travis Barker produced his latest record. He's pasted all over the side of the Whiskey A Go-Go as we speak.
Yeah, and he's dating Megan Fox. So
yeah, he's got Left by the Balls.
Yeah, he's doing the same thing. How do I wind up dating Megan Fox? He asks himself while he's watching Transformers 15 years ago, and I'll become a rock star, and that's how I'll do that. So watching those guys do it was really incredible, and it brought back. That's what is most rewarding about it. It was in the moment that they were playing that song, it brought me back to being 16 years old. And the passion and love you have for music, for a killer song, and your whole life is ahead of you, and you're fantasizing about what it could become. And if I was cool like those guys, it brought it back in an instant. And that's what made it magical to me. And I think some of that comes across to the viewer. It just reminds you of this time and place when things were so much, less complicated.
Yeah.
Certainly for people our age who were mid-teens at the time.
Now, Rich, did I read that it brought a tear to your eye, that scene where was it Goosebump Central? Maybe a little tear in the corner of your eye right there?
It did, yeah. it really it made me very emotional. I had to leave the set and go outside by myself. There was more tied into it. I had just lost my really good friend who had turned me on to Motley Crue in 1983. I'd lost him a couple of months before they shot that, and he would have been there with me on the set, and he would have loved it. So that's what I mean. It's just like there's so much. Anytime any music that you love, you hear that song again, it takes you back to that year and that summer. Whether it's 89 when the B-52 suddenly had this comeback with Cosmic Thing. Yeah. And then you just like you're locked into that time period. You remember exactly where you were. There's so magical about music.
Music is transformative. I mean, this is one of our highest forms of communication. And it's like, can you imagine people, trying to have a first dance at a wedding? What are they going to dance to? Like, can you imagine trying to work out on a Peloton workout without music? I mean, this is going to be a miserable time. I mean, we need that. And I love that it's a theme running through a lot of your work. I think it's great where you take something that you're passionate about, that you know a lot about, and you weave it into these tales. I was fascinated by, my thing is that I look up everybody on IMDb as I'm watching the film, and I'm like, where's this guy from? What's his age category? Is he a Strasberg guy? Is he an improv guy? I mean, it's like, how did they bring that character to life? And I thought there were so many British and Australian actors that played those guys, and you cannot tell. They just sounded like a bunch of just Southern California, dropouts.
Yeah. It's really annoying when you think about it. Like I was watching Saturday Night Live from the other night, and it's the guy Daniel who was the lead in Get Out, who turns out to be a British dude. And Get Out, you're like, this is a quintessentially American kid, and it turns out he's got this crazy accent. They're so good at doing impressions of us that it's kind of annoying.
Yeah, Get Out.
You guys are both trying to. I mean, from what I know, I've seen you on IMDb. You're doing some acting as well.
Yeah, it's been a fun journey.
You don't fit the stereotype of the drummer. You're too handsome. You're too articulate. You got too much.
He's too out front.
Your thoughts are organized, and you have goals that you attain. What the hell? I don't.
Well, thanks, man. You know what? But I still feel like your drummer from Carne Asada, El Chupacabra. Yes. We would get along fine because he was crazy and he was a drummer, and it's like we have this fraternity. But it's also something that's very common with drummers, where we have these other kind of hidden desires or skill sets that a lot of times we're not afraid to act on. You're a screenwriter. Jim's a working voice actor and a podcast producer, and you got the guys that are really into rock and roll real estate, or hey, there's the guys that like, hey, this is my band. I do all the graphic design, or I do all the social media for the band, or I manage the band. It's always the drummer.
Now that you say that, now I'm thinking about, well, obviously Neil Peart, but like in Minor Threat, the drummer was the guy who did all the graphic design for the logo and all of that kind of thing. I guess I'm thinking more guys like, you don't hear much outside about Alex Van Halen doing things outside of the band, but certainly with Tommy Lee, he was a DJ and a techno guy.
Charlie Benante.
Yeah,
he writes most of the riffs for Anthrax.
Yeah,
on guitar.
Yep. And he's got the coffee. We always have these little side hustles. Tico Torres is selling his art, and everyone's.
So is Lars.
Yeah, everyone's got, and Lars is a big collector too. So so we hey, we have these things that we're interested in. But I really enjoyed that, man, and congratulations on that.
Oh, awesome! Thank you.
We'll just say for the record that Getty and Alex were slackers.
Well, the challenge is that they had to bring these tales of, the Ents and the end of civilization and Middle Earth to life, and it's so funny. Like Tolkien is such a common subject. I mean, in a lot of Zeppelin songs, I mean, you're either talking about squeeze the lemon and let that juice run down my leg, or you're talking about like the trolls and the dwarves and dragons and Middle Earth and princes. Yeah,
Asgard and the place where they go to die.
I kind of want to revisit the Tolkien books,
It wasn't also for Rush, like Ayn Rand was an influence, like with the trees being
Yes.
sawed to be equal.
That was about socialism going to communism,
Yeah.
about the Bolshevik revolution.
Yeah. So very heady stuff.
Yeah, just think about the Orwellian 1984. That was a long time ago. We passed that up a long time ago.
Got smoking in the boys' room and the trees.
So if there's some creatives that are listening, or some aspirational screenwriters, they're staring at a blank page. What do? Do you outline the thing with bullet points and fill in the details and the humanity? You have or how does that work? Jim's got a question.
Free writing. Start there.
Rewriting is more the easy part. The hardest part is getting, and that's sort of my advice, is always to get the first draft out as quickly as possible, because it's going to be terrible, but at least you have a beginning, middle, and an end that you can start whittling away at. And you do it endlessly until you're sick of it. And that's really the job. You know, you don't just, if you're working, you don't just get to turn in a draft and it's perfect and you walk away. You're hammering out notes for months and months.
You know, I'm curious, being that we started off on the Marvel movie aspect of things, how much are those movies, do you think, intended upon in the script, and what do they become once everything is shot and edited and put together? How far away do they go from the original idea?
I imagine with something that has to be pre-planned that far in advance, you know, they're doing pre-production for the visual effects a year before shooting. And again, I'm just spitballing here, but I don't think there's that much room for messing around or for changing things on the fly. So
they have a lot of improv going on in those scenes, though. You know,
well, maybe with dialogue, but as far as scenes themselves and who's going to be interacting with who, that stuff is engineered. You know,
it's got to
be. Yeah, it's super complicated.
Yeah, another guy, they got to have an entire department just for the Easter eggs. You know what I mean? Just the little things that you go back and watch and you're going, holy crap, there's that thing. I didn't even realize it was there the first 10 times.
Yeah, but like a script supervisor, I'm sure is like so crucial in a movie like that, where for the consistency, or like where the drink is like has to be drank the same amount every time when you see it. I was looking at IMDb on one of your first films, The Stoned Age, and there was so many like where they have the little goofs. Like, now when you look at the opening scene, this guy is driving a 1980s car, but the movie was set in the, you know what I mean? And it's like, it's hilarious. I don't know how those people catch those things. They have to be OCD, overly methodical people.
But then you get movies like, damn it, what's that movie with where the kid goes out on the road with the band?
Almost Famous.
Almost Famous.
Lock the gates.
Yeah,
Mark Maron's
so that's set back in the 70s, right? Is that when it typically takes place? And they still have logos on the bottoms of the symbols. And I'm going, that wasn't like that, Ben.
Yeah, but you can't catch everything. That's the problem.
No, I know, but it's still that element of authenticity. They didn't do any of that back.
Jim, I got to tell you, your mic is so hot today. It is like hot. So hot.
No, fits the personality.
So, Rich, I don't know if I did I ask you a clear question there? I don't know.
Well, it was about the process, which, outlining or what have you. And I don't have a process that's consistent. I do something different and I've been doing this for 30 years. Like you have, your crash thing, which is very well thought out. Okay. I could not teach a class on anything because it's completely random every single time. And I'll be influenced by, I'll read Stephen King's book on writing, and he's like, screw the outline, just plow through and it'll work itself out. And so I'll try that. And then the other guy is, very, very structured and and I feel that sucks the life out of stuff because you're writing it before you're writing it, but then the results speak for themselves.
Right.
I don't have a cohesive theory on what makes a good writing process.
And you would do some cameos in your work as well, kind of like pull a Hitchcock and or a Scorsese and kind of like feature yourself here and there in your films. So you've acted in films, you're a screenwriter, you've done some directing, you've played music. Do you like them all equally, or at the beginning and the end of the day, is there one that you just have gives you more joy?
The one that gives me most joy is the one I'm best at, which is the writing.
Gotcha.
I wish I was a great musician. That would be great. Acting as well is intimidating as can be. Like I've petitioned the director to put me in something, and then as soon as I'm in front of the camera, I'm thinking, what the hell am I doing here? I don't belong here. And occasionally that works out when I have one line, but if I have more than one line, it's like the sun is going down, it's a moving camera shot, the pressure is on. Why did I put myself in this position? But at least, you get to knock it off the bucket list.
Yeah.
But why are you guys expanding into all these different, we can't be masters of everything.
Right.
What is do you want to do like Sal on, what's his name? Van Zant on Sopranos? And
I mean, that would be really incredible. I mean, after all these years,
The answer is yes.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I'm open to I'm open to all the gifts of the universe, and it's like I'm really into self-actualization, law of attraction, putting yourself out there and doing the work. At the same time, there's an element of destiny and spirituality and God and the universe and that tie in there and positive thinking. But I don't want to rely on positive thinking because there's a lot of people that can rely on that kind of stuff and just be really lazy. You still have to put your best foot forward. So it's like, I don't want to be like another kid that's like, I work at a coffee shop 8 hours a day and I'm an actor and I haven't done anything in 3 years. It's like, look, I have this great job playing the drums, entertaining people, bringing songs to life for people, sharing this gift that I cultivated. But at the same time, I have this thing has always fascinated me in my entire life. And I want to, like you did, you explore these things and you do it with a smile on your face and you jump into the deep end of the pool. And I think it's terribly exciting. It really is,
Well, here's a question for you. When you are using the status that you've achieved as a drummer to help you in another endeavor like acting because you've met so-and-so or the agent is the same agent or whatever, do you feel is that cheating in some way?
I think it's a similar thing like you in the early days of telling your little off-white lies to open a door. And I think that's, in today's world, maybe some kids are like trying to look at us and using us as a model, like, well, this person can do so many things at a high level. But for the first 30 years, you've been writing scripts for 30 years. And so for those 30 years, I was been rocking the drums. So you have tens of thousands of hours in the trenches. But I think if you achieve something in life and you can use it to potentially break the ice or use it as a 20-second elevator pitch, I think that's something to kind of be almost proud of,
Right, because it's not like nepotism. You've put in the work, at least in one arena, that opens a door in another.
Yeah.
You're taking it. I mean, it's not like that door is going to open and you're instantly successful. You have to work like hell to make that angle work, before you can progress on that.
And
at that point in your life, you got to use the tools you have at hand, and there's only so much time left. So
and if somebody gives you an opportunity, you want to thank them by making them look really, really good and exceeding their expectations. So it's like, wow, I didn't expect that. And, they go, well, okay, this is good. I can call that guy again. Just, you want repeat customers in the music business and the arts, right? We want to have repeat business.
Yes. Is Jim, are you usually the guy? I mean, it was like you just said, we don't have much time left, and I suddenly got very sad. Is that your...
that was a very macabre comment, wasn't it? That was very kind of a real downer. And I realized that after it left my mouth, which happens a lot. But no, it's just basically, hey, if Rich spent, 20 some odd years, 30 years honing out a craft and forging a career in the music business, and he wants to get into acting, it's like, you might as well use it. Use everything you have in your toolbox,
Yeah.
Because, a lot of people that are trying to get in acting, they need their big break. And it happens in music, and Rich already had his big break in music. Why not see if he can make it translate over to acting?
Well, I appreciate it, guys. It makes me think about the 3 P's that I share in my speeches, which is, I tell young musicians, I say, look at it, your playing, your people skills, and your personality. And if you put all those together and you're getting an A+ on all those things, it's a really winning combination to like cultivate a great life for yourself,
Now, here's to follow up on that. Are you naturally extroverted? Because the way you talk, your enthusiasm, you seem like you're going to be a lot of fun to hang around.
Yeah.
Is that come to you naturally, or are you faking it?
Jim, am I an extrovert?
He's like this all the time. I've known him since '08, and he is always just. I've seen, there are times where we've gotten very personal and everything, but even in those very intimate times, he still has that vivacious, energetic type of approach to himself. So yeah, you're getting the real deal.
Oh,
but,
Jim.
I guess what I'm asking is, at a certain point, in my life, I made the same choice that Vin Diesel did. Instead of being this mousy kid who's too shy to talk, I decided I'm going to be big and boisterous and see if that pays off more than being a wallflower. And it turns out it does. So was this natural from you at 11 years old, or is this something you cultivated to change your life?
That's a great question, man. It's something else I think, we might have in common, and is that when I read in your bio that you were shy. I was like, this guy is singing, he's singing La Cucaracha with a punk band. I mean, that doesn't make sense. And also, to get your script seen and heard in Hollywood, you had to put yourself out there and champion yourself and shout from a mountaintop, I exist, read the script, And I mean, there has to be a level of that. It's not cockiness, but it's a confidence in yourself to say, I am worthy, and somebody is going to get their script picked up. Why not mine? Right?
That's the thing. It's like feeling unworthy of having this reward of success. And you can have a bad self-image, but that doesn't mean that your work is bad. So if you can correct that and turn it into, it's okay for me to be successful. Why not me? I'm a nice person. And then channel that. So again, was this a conscious evolution on your part, or is this innate with you?
I think I may have been a little shy at some point. I'd have to ask my parents, but maybe from maybe 7 to 12 or something. There's like a little period where there's some shyness or some introversion, and then the drums gave me more confidence, and then MTV was happening. I was like, oh my God, I think I might be able to do that. Of course, I'm growing up in El Paso, Texas. There's no connection to the music business there, so I'm going to have to go out into the real world and figure out who these gatekeepers are and how the actual music business works. And then I did put some importance on higher education, so I didn't get out of college until I was 25 with my master's degree. So here I am, this overeducated rock drummer, right? And trying to find my birds of a feather and people that I could go through life with, and go after something. And I'm lucky that I met some really like-minded guys in Nashville in 1997, and we've been at each other's weddings, and we finished each other's sentences, and it's a great thing. I'm sure you have friends like that where it's like, wow, we've been friends for 30 years, bro.
Sure. Yeah. 40. Yeah. But the weird key is, you came from El Paso. I don't have any relation to the movie business at all. I grew up in Oceanside with not knowing anybody who knew anything about the business. And that's such an intimidating thing. But again, being able to jump through that and say, well, let's figure it out. So I became an extra in movies like Lost Boys, and I was on game shows and whatever I could to just learn and figure out something until you finally find some way to get in. But the first part is just figuring out that it's possible to be on radio. How do I be, who are these guys that are on radio? I don't know. Let's figure it out.
Yeah. Anything is possible. I mean, really, you hear that all the time from motivational speakers, but it is the absolute truth. Now, if we watch The Lost Boys, is there a scene that you're featured in where I could stop the frame and go, oh my God, there's Rich?
No, I'm blocked by my friend. I had this great sweater that was a bee sweater. It was red, yellow and black stripes, so you could see it from a mile away. And my friend took it from me, so you can see him but not me. It was
Yeah, we filmed a music video there right by the, the amusement park, the pier there on the beach. It was a really, really fun night. And I got to go under that little trestle bridge where a lot of the films they were hanging upside down. It's a pretty cool thing. So,
the one common thread I'm drawing from all of this in the music business, the acting business, and the writing business is that there is 1,000 ways to skin a cat.
That's right.
That makes sense to me. Like you were talking about the process of writing that, being more rigid about it stifles the creative process, whereas Stephen, not Spielberg, but Stephen King just says, get it all out there and get your first draft. There's always your way of doing it and go with what works.
Yeah.
That's the thing. I tell voiceover people that I coach, you got to figure out your own voice. You got to figure out your own way of doing things. And it involves a lot of emulating and listening, recording, and repeating yourself.
Yeah.
I got to say, I'm getting real confused now because that was so positive from Jim and it made so much sense. I can see it now, you being a mentor for a voiceover.
Sure. Now, Jim,
I try, man.
Jim, I got a voiceover audition that's due tomorrow, so I'm sending you the file so you can make me sound a little bit more like Darth Vader with your plugins.
Oh, you can do that?
He does that for me. He does that for me.
They did it for Vin Diesel.
Do auto-tune for
with
voice?
The 3 words that made him bucos of dollars, bunches of dollars.
Do you think they lower the pitch of his voice, Rich?
No, I think in the first movie, I would imagine it didn't sound like they did, but in the later movies when he's playing Baby Groot, they have to pitch it up.
Oh,
for sure.
Well, he's in Saving Private Ryan, and he's talking pretty much the same way.
Yeah.
Hey, he pitched himself to Steven Spielberg. I think I read where he wrote a love letter of sorts to Steven Spielberg, and Spielberg was like, "Yeah, kid, here's a job for you." I mean, he pitched himself.
Well, he sent Spielberg a short film that he had written, directed, starred in. It was a little black and white short that was nothing like what you'd expect from Vin Diesel. It was very emotional about racial identity and family, and it got to Spielberg's desk somehow, and he got offered Private Ryan because. Again, it's just like he must have spent his own money, put himself out there, and figured out where to get equipment and how to direct and record sound. None of that is easy, especially in 1995.
Yeah, well, that was his Hollywood business card, I guess. He created the short, and that was kind of his business card. Now, Jim has got some questions for you, Rich. This is Jim's favorite part of the show, and we even have a jingle.
And I'm not sure if it's going to be positive or negative, so here we go.
It's the random question of the day.
Is that Rich? Is that you on drum?
It was programmed by a friend of mine, Jeremy, and he is a composer in Los Angeles. And I said, can you put together kind of an old school retro game show theme for us? And so that's what we got.
There you go. So the question, randomly chosen, is, what animal best represents your personality?
It's the platypus.
Now, why?
Boom.
Well, duckbill platypus has, they lay eggs. They have a poison stinger. They have a duck's bill. They're aquatic, and they're marsupials. I think they're marsupials. In either case, it's like a Swiss Army knife, right? They can do a little bit of everything. They burrow in the mud. They for whatever reason, that sounds like me.
That's awesome. It's kind of like the honey badger. Honey badger don't give a fuck.
Jim, what are you animal-wise?
I would say as of late, an owl of some sort. It's my favorite animal. I love owls.
Just because they're kind of majestic, or they stay up late at night, or
that's badass. I'm not that I think I'm badass, but I mean, I just like owls.
Yeah. Living in Tennessee, we got a lot of woods. And for a couple of years in my backyard, I got a lot of mature trees. There'd be these 2 massive barn owls. You do not mess with these things. And they've got their heads and they're turning them. And one's like a guard, right? And they take turns. They would swoop down and gather something in the yard. They've got this amazing sight, whether it be a snake or a squirrel. And then the other one takes its turn. And I'm like, wow, these things are intense. I would probably be a lion. I thought you might say a lion because you're kind of outgoing, and plus I'm a Leo. So, but yeah. I think Leos are like, we're going to put ourselves out there and just hell or high water, we're making this happen.
I'm also, I'm a fire horse in the Chinese zodiac, which is supposed to be the thing too. You gotta look that up. That's cool. Fire horse is a cool thing. You don't want to be like a rain pig or something, but fire horse is pretty.
But I'd love to be a dragon, like a Chinese dragon. That'd be amazing. Yeah. I love that green dragon sauce from Trader Joe's. You put that on anything.
Way too much Dungeons and Dragons, my friend.
Hey, they're making a Dungeons and Dragons film, and I hope they don't screw it up. Do you know who's doing that film, Rich?
I just read about it. I don't remember. It could even be a Game of Thrones type TV show. I'm not sure, but I've been dying for that.
Isn't Game of Thrones kind of loosely tied to Dungeons and Dragons?
I mean, it's all tied to Tolkien, and then you know what I mean. It's like we all just stole from Tolkien. Yeah. Well, heck,
but you were a dungeon master.
I was a dungeon master, which means that you're the creative mind that puts the whole campaign together.
Well, here's a little tie-in. Vin Diesel is a huge Dungeons and Dragons player from way back.
Right.
And he had all these fake tattoos in XXX, and across his stomach, he had the name of his elf magic user character from when he was a kid.
Wow.
That's awesome.
You got to have a 9-pack or a 12-pack to put tattoos on your stomach, you know?
Yeah.
And you got to maintain it. Otherwise, it just starts to melt.
Yeah. Because basically, I have a 12-pack. It's just covered.
Hey, Rich, I know that you got to change. You got scripts to write, man. Hollywood is calling. What's next for you? Can you give us a little secret, little thing, or just I don't know if there's NDAs going around, or can you just give us a hint what we can expect from you?
It is NDAs, but because of the dirt, it's 2 more biopics.
Oh, nice.
About famous people, that you would know, but NDA is I don't know. It just sucks because the movie could fall apart and then nobody knows I ever worked on it, which is what happens a lot. But I'm leaving here to go on a Zoom with TriStar to talk about that project. But other than that, catch up with me on Instagram, Rich_K_Wilkes. On Instagram, and then on Facebook, I'm rich.wilkes.1. I was the first one.
Of course you're number 1. I'm Rich Redmond 1, dude, and we're both Leos.
Whoa.
Isn't that crazy? Hey, did you hear about the big Facebook leak? 32 million users have all their personal information leaked. I can't wait to find out if that was me.
But what do they have? What do they have on you?
Well, you have your birthday, where you live, your email addresses, phone numbers, that kind of stuff.
All right.
Yeah.
None of the dick pics.
None of it is what it is.
Yeah. Well, man, this has been amazing, bro. I mean, really, really, very, very insightful. Congratulations on everything. And I hope we can meet in the flesh here at some point.
No, it seems like it would be a good hang. Maybe when I'm in Nashville, we'll hang out with Jim if we can get him to be, there you go.
Positive.
Yeah.
I'm generally a positive person.
You're in this dark dungeon over there.
With the hammer in the background and everything? Oh, sure.
And it says downgrade your Bill of Rights or something behind you.
Downgrade your bill and upgrade your lights. One of the businesses I have does LED lighting upgrades. Yeah. So we brighten up people's day.
LED is the future, and the future is now. And I tell you what, Jim, I want to put new lights in my condo because I got LED lights in there, but they are blinding. It's like I'm on an autopsy table or something.
Well, let me tell you, if you go to big.lighting.com, you can check everything out.
Hey guys, that's Rich Wilkes. What a great conversation. On Insta, he's Rich_K_Wilkes, and that's WILKES. And on Facebook, it's Rich.Wilkes.1. Thanks so much for your time, man.
Yeah, it was great meeting you. This is awesome. I learned a lot.
Fantastic. Me too, man. And to all the listeners out there, we appreciate it. We got an email address for you, therichrredmondshow@gmail.com. Jim and I love praise. Send us some praise. We'll read your letter on the air. And as always, this is my ask. Subscribe, share, rate, and review. Keep coming back for the good stuff. We'll be here. Thanks so much. Rich, thanks, man.
Thank you. See you guys later. Thanks, Jim.
See you, brother.
This has been The Rich Redmond Show. Subscribe, rate, and follow along at richredmond.com/podcasts.